Hi, and welcome to another one of my MGB in detail videos. You've joined me here in my 1967 MGB GT in the coronavirus lockdown. I haven't done one of these videos for a while, so it seems like an appropriate time to do it, being sort of stuck at home with the car. So this time we're going to talk about the body of the MGB and kind of what to look out for if you're going to buy one, because one of the things that you'll find when owning an MGB is that things like the interior and the engine and the suspension brakes, etc., are quite easy to fix and readily available and not that expensive. So replacement engines aren't too bad. And the most expensive thing that you're going to find on any MGB, and quite a lot of classic cars as well, actually, I suppose, it's kind of the general more expensive items will be to do with the bodywork, because it needs specialist attention, and you can't do well unless you're well practiced in doing spraying and bodywork preparation and welding and that kind of thing. You won't be able to do a lot of that at home, whereas a lot of the other stuff you can save money by doing it at home. So buying a car with poor body, you're going to spend way more money fixing that rather than buying a car with a good body but potentially like bad mechanicals, because they're easy to sort. But anyway, we're inside the car and the body's on the outside, so let's go outside and have a look. So this is the outside of my MGB, and I think it's a sort of handsome shape, and for many actually the MGB is sort of the quintessential British sports car, and I think the looks go some way into helping that. So who was actually behind the look of the car? Well, the chief engineer of the MGB was a guy called Sir Stirling, but the guy who was responsible for the body was a guy called Don Hayter. And the interesting thing is that at the time, American cars and even some British cars were introducing sort of fins and that kind of thing onto the car designs, but they really didn't want to go down that route. And Sid had worked on the MG land speed record car, the MG EX181, and they tried to incorporate some of the styling of that car into this. It's not as obvious on the GT as it is on the Roadster, but it's kind of trying to get that continuous line from front to back, where the MG EX181 was kind of a very slippery shaped car to go maximum speed. They tried to make the design of this as simple as possible to incorporate that kind of front to back uninterrupted line. But I don't know how successful they were in doing that, but I think they ended up with quite a nice shape, and a shape which sort of has stood the test of time. I think it's quite nice to look at. So moving on from that, one of the things that is quite good about the MGB at the time was sort of some of the innovations that were incorporated to it. So under the skin of the MGB is that it's one of the first British sports cars to introduce crumple zones, so safety in the front of the car there. And in this GT model, the sort of back of it, if we can walk around here, is this hatchback or lift sort of tailgate, which was kind of one of the first of its kind really in a car like this, and adds that sort of level of practicality which you don't get in a lot of the cars of this period. So if we start talking about the exterior of the car in a bit more detail, it makes sense to sort of start at the front, and I'll begin by talking about these chrome bumpers and grille. These ones are my ones, which are a bit pitted and old and dinged up, and the reason I haven't replaced them is because the replacement chrome products you get these days are a bit iffy in terms of quality, so I've kind of stuck with my old ones. I mean, I would like to get them re-chromed, but that's expensive, and these ones are damaged because of the way in which the previous owner had fitted the spot lamps. So they drilled a hole in these bumpers. I've just had to put some ugly looking bolts to cover up the holes here, so they'd need to be repaired if we were going to keep them. But yeah, I don't mind the way they look, and actually they're functional. So I've got it's a very small driveway and can't always get on here because it's not an official one. So if I park in the street, having these bumpers, which are a bit dinged up already, it doesn't matter too much if someone bashes them a little bit. And you can see these overriders do have a little bit of wear where people have sort of knocked into it a bit. I mean, I can't be too precious about it. If I park it on the road, people these days, they don't seem to care too much about bashing into stuff, but you know, you have to just live with it, unfortunately. So that's kind of the bright work all around. Actually, it's best to sort of re-chrome the original stuff than to buy a new, just because of the varying quality. So the other thing to talk about is the bonnet as well. So if we take this up here, the bonnet is quite a big bit of metal, and I think originally the bonnet was aluminium on these cars. Mine's been replaced at some point to be steel, so not got the original aluminium bonnet that would have been there. I think on the early cars it was aluminium, just to reduce weight. I would like to get another one, but they are expensive, and they're prone to sort of denting and that kind of stuff. And then we should kind of work our way down to this front footwell. There's another thing to sort of talk about. So on most sort of old cars, you want to look sort of at a lower level, because that's where you'll see a lot of corrosion and things as the sort of water and muck gets splashed up into the wheel arches. This has been sitting for a bit, so a few cobwebs. But the bits to pay attention to, and you can't really see it too well, are these sort of splash panels here. So mine are relatively solid, but they've got like a rubber seal that runs all the way up the top. And if that rubber seal perishes, water and muck go up the top of the wing and gather on the top, just up here onto like a hidden trumpet area, and rot through from the top down and into the cabin. This is quite a sort of costly repair, and often means that you have to remove the front wing, and that in itself isn't an easy job because of bolts all the way along the top of the bonnet. And actually there's retaining bolts inside here, which will obviously, if your car's been sprayed, then like mine has, the paint has kind of gone over there and you'll crack the paint and everything. And this is another area of corrosion as well. Mine doesn't look too bad because it's been sprayed a few years ago, but you'll get blistering along here as water collects in these channels and actually can make its way sort of in there as well. So the main point on an MGB to talk about, I guess, is the seals, because these are costly to repair, because they're quite a complex construction. So originally this car coming out as a convertible, that's where all of the strength is in the seal, and that's what makes the GT actually quite a good purchase in terms of handling and things, because the roof and those seals makes the structure quite stiff. It's my OCD, I have to shut this door. There we go. So sort of seals on a car are pretty important, and mine have been replaced at some point. And I know this because I'll let you into a bit of a secret. You can see here at the front there's the join with the front wing, and that's supposed to be there because that's where another panel sort of joins on. But there's also supposed to be another join around here somewhere. And when people get their seals repaired, I think people when they sort of put the panels back, they go, oh, that's a bit of an ugly join. That's surely not supposed to be there, and I'll either lead load it or fill it or whatever, and it disappears. But in actual fact, the original cars came with the join visible, so that's not correct. There should be a line under there, and that's how you can tell if a car's had its seals repaired. And also, because it is an expensive repair, you know, there's multiple layers of metal that make up the seal. People will try and avoid revealing sort of the rusty sills by covering them in stainless steel plates that run the length of the car. And this is just a terrible idea because it traps moisture and you can't see what's happening underneath. And I mean, some people might think they genuinely look nice, but I don't. And like I say, it's normally just to mask some horrors underneath. So always be wary of a car wearing those sill covers there. Right, so making our way to the top. I've spoken about this before. This is my sunroof. I don't really like it. I think it spoils the lines of the car, but a lot of them came with it or have been added afterwards, so you kind of stuck with it if you choose one. If you find one which has got it and everything's right about it except the roof, it's not the worst thing in the world. And it is quite fun to use, I guess, every now and again. So another area for corrosion though is this rain gutter. So you can see down there's a bit of sort of dust and things in it, but down here there is actually corrosion, and it's quite a difficult repair. So I think that's why it wasn't repaired when I had it resprayed. even though all of this was ground down to bare metal and repainted, I think they've omitted to do this because it's more complex and more costly. And you can see how water going in here has gone under the paint and started to rot out this part of the wing where it joins on. The camera interrupted me there. I think it must have thrown a bit of a wobbly, but I'm just saying that this is all starting to go a bit here, so it needs a bit of repair. And on the other side it's actually a bit worse where the paint has cracked there, so something to watch out for. The next thing to talk about is shut lines. So here's an example of a bad one. I can get my finger almost under there, and this isn't probably factory spec. I think probably what's happened at some point is maybe this car has been rear-ended, and potentially that's why this is pushed in a bit, although it is kind of consistent with the other side as well, so maybe it is just the way that the tailgate is sitting, but could be evidence of a sort of crash damage there. I can't find anything else that sort of hints at crash damage, but yeah, that's one explanation for it. It could be there. And I think you're supposed to have those a couple of lines down here for where panels join and things on the original cars, and these have been filled in, so potentially that is another bit of evidence to suggest that perhaps this car has been in an accident at some time. You can also see here a little bit more corrosion coming through. This is kind of where water is collected either in the boot or has somehow got inside the structure and rotting it from the inside out. And that's pretty much it. There's one thing that I think is a good idea, and my car has it, is stone chip paint from here downwards. I mean, I've got it all along the rear valance here, that's all stone chip paint, all on the sills and also at the front, and this just gives the car that little bit of extra protection from chips down there, which is where it's most likely to happen. So I guess that's pretty much it for the bodywork on an MGB. I hope you like this video, and I hope I've given you a little bit of an insight into the design of the car, and also what to look for when looking to buy one. Obviously there's more sort of comprehensive buying guides online and things, but I thought I'd quite like to just show people around my car and what it's all about. So let me know if you liked it, and I'll be back soon with some more content. So see you later, bye.